honored the Silva Excellence in International Business Award, which is sponsored by Grant Thornton. I'm retired from there now, so I will have Mario Bonilla come up here and award or make the presentation.
Good evening. I'm Mario Bonilla. I actually was born in Mexico. That's where my accent comes from. And I just realized that my goal in life now is going to be to have this accent longer than Dr. Dharma da Silva has his. So. But I think mine is a little less thick than his, but anyway. On behalf of all the professionals and partners of Grant Thornton, it's my honor to present the 2018 Dharma da Silva International Business Service Award. And the company that is the recipient of this award is Viga LLC. Viga LLC actually has a very long history. For those that are not familiar with Viga, there's a leading manufacturer of plumbing systems. If you probably go to the basement of your house, it's very likely that you got their piping systems in your house right now. The company got originated in Germany. The Viga Group is a global company with offices or manufacturing sites in Germany, Denmark, Finland, Italy, Hungary, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Sweden, and Belgium. You know, and it's refreshing to hear for a change that this company actually sees the US as a growing market. You know, that's always something that surprised me from them. Viga began his operations in the US back in 1999. Viga LLC opened its first manufacturing facility in the US in McPherson, Kansas. Viga sells its products in the US, Mexico, and Latin America. Their headquarters in Bromfield, Colorado. Viga has more than 600 employees in the US with locations in Colorado, Georgia, Kansas, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania. So you can see the amount of investment that they're making on the US market, and their goal is to continue to grow the US market and eventually manufacture products for sale in Mexico, Canada, and expansion into Latin America. They just announced not too long ago a big expansion in McPherson. They plan to grow to have around 700 square feet of manufacturing space, and they're moving their master distribution center to McPherson. Mark Brody, the Director of Marketing for Viga, is here to receive the award. Mark. I think that you got a couple of slides that you want to do.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very gracious award, and very glad and honored to come receive this for Viga. So, on behalf of Viga LLC, I'd like to thank the World Trade Council of Wichita for this gracious award. I also want to extend thanks and regrets from our CEO, Dave Garlow, who unfortunately was unable to be here as he is traveling in Europe right now on business. But he was really disappointed that he could not be here. So I got the great fortune of coming to Wichita and visiting with you all tonight. So I have a few slides here, just kind of give you an overview. Obviously, we moved our corporate headquarters from Wichita, where we called home for many years, to Colorado for various reasons. Predominantly as a growing company and also doing international business. International flights are a big part of our business. So Denver airport offers more direct flights to the United States and the rest of the world than any other airport in the country, including Atlanta and Chicago. So that's a big reason why we moved to Colorado. We did keep our manufacturing facility here in Kansas. It's in McPherson. We acquired that location with the purchase of Vanguard Plastics in early 2000s. We have a 125-acre facility there. I'm going to show you, these are the kind of construction of our new corporate headquarters, which is really it's a beautiful building that we're building there. It's designed by a company, or an architecture firm in Colorado, and they're using a new technology. It's called cross-laminated timber, so there's no steel in the building. So it really has this great kind of Colorado lodgy feel to it, and it's all the windows are glass, so everybody gets great views. We're in conjunction with the corporate headquarters, which is, as you see there, is about 50,000 square feet. We're building nearly 24,000 square foot seminar center. Our product is a little bit complex to install, and we want to make sure the installers that are installing it are doing it correctly. So we train currently at our training facility in New Hampshire about 4,000 plumbers and engineers a year there, and we're at capacity. And it's also difficult for customers and engineers from the West Coast to get to New Hampshire. So building a facility in Colorado kind of opens up a whole new group of people in the country that can have access to our training. These are some photos of the building. The top two are construction about 2.5 weeks ago, and then the one on the bottom was 3 weeks ago. So we had a snowstorm, but you can see the mountains there in the background. Those are the views that we'll have out of the building, so we're pretty excited to move in there at the end of the year. Here's our plant in McPherson. So we've got, I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing here, but the one on the left side there was the existing plant, so that's our plastics manufacturing facility. As I mentioned, the campus is about 125 acres. Recently, this building on the right side, you can see looks like there's two buildings kind of connected. The smaller one on the left is our mega press facility, which is a carbon steel fitting that we use for black iron pipe or carbon steel. That product has traditionally been manufactured in Germany, so we're bringing that production to the United States, and eventually 80% of those fittings will be made in the U.S. for the U.S., Canadian, Latin American, Mexico market. The building to the right that's connected to it is called ACDC, which is our heavy metals project. That's the code name for it. It's for our ProPress product, which is yeah, pretty clever, I thought. Yeah, I'm like, what's this ACDC thing? Oh yeah, I like it. So that's our ProPress product, which is our copper press fitting, which is really our flagship product and what put Viga on the map. We recently finished construction on that, and we're starting to install machinery. Late third quarter, early fourth quarter, we'll start producing ProPress fittings. And then just at the end of March, this whole green section right here, which is about another 204,000 square feet, we quickly decided that we needed ACDC 2. So that's going to bring our total manufacturing square footage in McPherson to 700,000 square feet. And then a possible expansion for us in the future is above those two buildings. There's another chunk of land there that we can expand further. In addition to that, McPherson is one of our distribution centers, and since our products, majority of them are going to be made in the U.S., we're going to move our master distribution, which is currently in Atlanta. So all of our European products come from Europe, and they're distributed from that master DC to all of our other DCs across the country. So we thought it made more sense to make Kansas our master DC, since more of our products are going to be manufactured here every day. So again, there's the plastics factory. It was constructed in 2000, 2008 after we acquired the company. That's almost 450,000 square feet. That's the mega press factory. That's another 77,000 square feet. It's beautiful. You can definitely tell the German roots. The manufacturing facilities there are really high-tech. Robots are in place to protect people from getting hurt, not replace jobs. And then we've got ACDC 1, which is another 90,000 square feet. Which was constructed last year and is getting ready to come online. And then we've got the future ProPress factory that we've just broken ground on, and that's another 204,000 square feet. The dedication really to McPherson is we've continued our success of ProPress is really in the U.S. market. We're about ready to exceed the global supply of that product being manufactured in Germany, so that's why the investment back here in the U.S., get it closer to the marketplace, and alleviate the manufacturing strain on our German factories. The McPherson campus, I mentioned, was 127 acres. North American headcount for Viga right now is about 600. By 2020, we're projected to be about 800 people, so we're still growing very rapidly, and a lot of those jobs are going to come here to Kansas and the McPherson location. Again, 700,000 square feet, and with the new facilities that have just been built, we're going to add about 100 new jobs to that facility. Now, McPherson has traditionally been known as a manufacturing town, specifically plastics, so we were able to find workers that were readily available and understood that manufacturing process. Well, this metals products are a completely new thing for this community. So we have an apprenticeship program that we started last year. Our first class had 6 enrollees in it. We recruit them from local community colleges and also kids right out of high school. So we give them an one-year apprenticeship program that lasts a year. We send them to Germany to be trained on the factory, so they get to spend 6 to 8 weeks in Germany learning how to use the machines. And then when they come back and complete their one-year apprenticeship, they're guaranteed a job. We just enrolled our second class, which has 10 in it, and then another 5 are getting ready to start any day here because graduation is right upon us. So we're hoping to really train that workforce and help create jobs for the community. 2017 is when we launched the program, like I said, and then we're in collaboration with Hutchinson Community College. It's a really great program. It's a great story, and it's just a great way to pay back to the community. So it's really all I have on VIGA from what we're doing here in Kansas and McPherson, and I thank you again for this time, and I thank you for this award.
Well, we come to the highlight of the evening. Our program features Argentina. Had the opportunity to talk a little bit this afternoon with our distinguished guest speaker. We talked a lot about some of the commonalities that exist between Argentina and Kansas. In particular, we talked about the friendliness of the people. I've had the pleasure of being in Argentina, and the people there are wonderful and friendly and always welcome you with open arms. They say, mi casa es su casa, my house is your house. And it's not just a saying, they really mean it. So it's just really great. We also talked about the fact that we both produce excellent beef. And I'm thinking, well, which is better? And all I can say is, well, bring me a plate of each, and I'll taste them. And then I'll probably say, you know what, I can't decide. Bring me another plate of both of them, and I'll tell you then, and just continue that process in ad infinitum. Marcelo Bofi is the Deputy Consul General from Argentina. Prior to the past 2 years, when he started serving at the consulate in Chicago, which handles the Midwest, he was stationed in Korea. He's been many other places as well, and we're looking forward to hearing what he has to tell us about the country of Argentina.
Well, good evening. Thank you very much, Ted, for your words. Good idea. It's a good idea to know which beef is best to keep on trying with. It's a good idea. Well, as you know, my name is Marcelo Bofi. I'm the Deputy Consul in Chicago. It's a real pleasure for me to be here. I would like first to thank World Trade Council of Wichita for having organized this wonderful event. Dan for being my host today. Thank you very much for being a great host for Wichita. And Ted, thank you very much for this balloons which are the colors of Argentina. I really appreciate that. Well, as you know, it's really a pleasure to be here because my father-in-law, I just said a lot of times today, is a member of the Air Force of Argentina, retired, and he was so jealous when he knew that I was coming here. He said, "You're going to Wichita, it's the aircraft industry center of the world," and so he really explained me a lot of that, and I'm really glad to be here now, and I got to witness that today with a text-run visit, so really thank you for that. Well, I would just like to explain in a few words what we do at the consulate. I mean, the consulate of Chicago, of Argentina in Chicago, is one of the 6 consulates that Argentina has throughout the U.S. Even though we're based in Chicago, we cover the whole Midwest, so that's 12 states, and of course Kansas State is one of them. And what we do there is very simple. Of course, we have a consular section which handles with passports and IDs for Argentine citizens, but for foreign citizens we also do visas, so if you need to go to Argentina, Americans do not need visa to go to Argentina, but if your companies, you have foreigners that do need visas to go to Argentina, please, don't hesitate to talk to me, and we'll be able to arrange that to make it easier for your staff to go to Argentina, right? And the other thing that we do at the consulate, of course, is to promote, one is, the consular section, and the other section is the economic and cultural section. What we try to do there is mainly to promote Argentine exports, but also imports. We were talking with Ted before, we are open to help people to export to Argentina. We think that it's a win-win situation, so we are more than glad to do that. We also promote investments from the States to Argentina, but the other way around too. So we're more than glad to try to get companies, Argentine companies, to invest in Kansas, right? I strongly believe what Ted said, I think that Argentina and the Midwest region has a lot of things in common. There's a huge ground for cooperation between the two regions. We've seen that throughout, the trips that we do with the Consul General. And for example, just an example, last year there was a sisterhood agreement between St. Louis and a city called Rosario. Those who know Argentina, it's a city in the middle of Argentina, and it's so similar to the Great Plains. It's in our Pampas. Our Pampas is your Great Plains, right? So there's a lot of ground for cooperation. Looking forward to increase that cooperation with you guys. So I'm more than willing to answer your questions. If you have questions about doing business in Argentina, I will try to answer some of the questions with this presentation. But if you have more questions, please feel free to ask me, okay? So let's move on with my presentation. Argentina has in terms of economics, it has some characteristics that makes it quite unique in Latin America. First of all, as you see, it's a large and diverse economy. It's the third economy in Latin America after Mexico and Brazil. It's also the third largest GDP per capita, and we have around 43 million inhabitants. But that is larger in terms of market if you think that we are part of the Mercosur. Those who are not familiar with that, Mercosur is kind of the NAFTA. So it's Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay. Those are the founding countries of this agreement, right? And it's about 3 million population of the market, right? And with no tariffs, right? So it's a very interesting market. If you are installed in Argentina, you can export to Brazil, no problem. Argentina has also vast natural resources. It's the 8th largest country in the world. It's a top exporter of soybean oil, wheat also, so in this we have a lot of things in common. And also lemons. And in terms of oil and gas, not everybody knows that. Maybe the fact of the agricultural potential of Argentina is known abroad, but people do not know about the opportunities in oil and gas. We have the second largest reservoir in terms of shale gas, and we have very good opportunities for renewable energies too. In terms of human capital, Argentina is quite recognized within Latin America for its skilled labor force. We have world standard universities, public and private, and something that also is not very known abroad is that we are the only country in Latin America that has 5 Nobel Prizes, 3 of them in medicine and chemistry, which talks about all this background of this high standard education, right? And last, talking about the infrastructure, Argentina has a nationwide infrastructure. More than 43 ports, 54 airports, 10 of them international, and there's an ambition, you see me here? Very ambitious program for infrastructure. This is within the new administration, right? Talking about trade and investment, our main investors are the United States, first by far, Netherlands, mainly in the oil sector, Brazil, Spain, and Chile. Our main trade partners is Brazil. This is due to the Mercosur that I talked to you about. China became our top, second partner, but this is very recent, and this is due to the huge boom of soybean crops in Argentina. So mainly that's what we export to China. Then Chile, United States, Spain, and Mexico. And talking about exports, it's soybean derivatives, corn, wheat, so what we talked recently, a lot of things in common with you guys. Transport and cargo of vehicles, crude oil, gold, well, minerals, mainly minerals. And our main imports is vehicles, auto parts. A lot of them come from the Midwest region. Diesel fuel, gas, airplanes, a lot come from here, and electronic devices. But just for you to understand, sometimes people think about Argentina as a merely agricultural exporter, right? But this is not the case. 30% of our exports have to do with industrial goods, and those goods go to the Mercosur market or the South American market. Just for you to know that it's not only that we only export agricultural goods, right? Well, let's move on to the bilateral with Kansas. As you can see here, you're doing pretty well, guys. We have a small deficit where you export to Argentina $6 million, and we are not doing that well. So I hope you like the wine that you're drinking. Please help us drink a little bit more. No, but really, frankly speaking, we are not afraid of this. You know, we know. I mean, we try to promote our export, but sometimes, you know, deficits are natural with some regions. And in this case, we were talking about Textron and ICM, also with the University of Wichita, Wichita State University, sorry, that these goods that we are importing from Kansas are so useful to the boom of our industry, you know, and so those are goods that we need, that we don't produce in Argentina, so it's totally okay. So keep them exporting, no problem. Well, let's move on to, I think, one of the key points of my presentation. I hope I was clear with the other two slides. Just wanted to give you a brief image of the structural structural productivity in Argentina, or production in Argentina. And this has to do more with the present. I'm almost sure you are aware that Argentina has changed its government 2 years ago, almost a little bit more. And the new government is led by President Macri. And really there has been substantial reforms in order to make it easy to make business with Argentina. Not only investing, also importing, exporting, and I could divide these measures in two. Like, well, first of all, there were key reforms that were needed, and those were taken really fast, like the beginning of Macri's government. You know, I will just focus on the first four. First of all, there was the government removed capital controls. That was very hard for companies that were based in Argentina. And before President Macri, I don't know if you are aware, we had a Kirchner government for almost 15 years. And it's true that in terms of economy, there were a lot of regulations. Those who have been done business with Argentina know that. And the fact that removing capitals was one of the things that really made that investors either didn't want to go to Argentina, or if they were already there, they said, look, I can still no longer do business here. So that's what Macri did at the beginning of his administration. He removed capital controls. He allowed the exchange rate to float. This was also a very important measure for foreign companies that were in Argentina. And finally, he resolved the defaulted debt that we have with foreign investors. That was also something that was very hard. The former government could not do that, but Macri did it pretty fast. And last but not least, in Argentina, believe it or not, we had export taxes. We're talking just maybe instead of promoting exports, some of these exports were taxed. And well, he removed that almost in all the production sectors, and he almost removed almost all the import restrictions. I was pretty glad in this trip. Before here, I was also in Kansas City and in St. Louis. I visited other companies that are doing business with Argentina. And it's not me saying this, they all agree that these measures were not only needed, but they were taken pretty fast in order to make business easier in Argentina. So I was pretty glad to really see that they as a company, they also saw that, you know. And well, the second plan is of course something more structural in terms of the policy that have been taken. It's a national productivity plan for 2 years. You know, in Latin America we have problems to think in long terms, and this is one of the things that this government is committed to. You know, to find long-term policies that will go on beyond this government and the one that comes after, right? So this, I will just summarize these policies by reducing costs, you know. There are tremendous costs compared to the US and Argentina in terms of labor. Unions can be pretty aggressive in Argentina, so we need a labor reform in Argentina that's quite urgent. Macri is trying to do that. It's not easy, but it's one of his top priorities. Also, reducing cost of capital and innovation and all the other things that make easier doing business. Another key sector, I'm going to talk about that later, is the energy sector and the infrastructure. We need really revamp these sectors, and we need foreign investors for that, right? Well, these measures allowed the country risk decline significantly during the first 2 years, and I think that we all saw that in the news, like after Macri came to power, those who are following what happens in Argentina, like the business community is pretty optimistic about what's going on in Argentina nowadays. Well, this is, I think, one of the pillars of one of the 2 pillars of this productivity plan, and is the need of investments for these sectors, mainly infrastructure, energy, mining too, and the other ones are also important, but the 2 first are critical. And well, the government is working hard in creating an attractive framework for foreign investors. And by doing so, they already identified opportunities for more than $265 billion US. As you see, most of them are focused in infrastructure. You can see all the sectors there, roads, highways. Today we were with ICM. They have worked in a facility of ethanol production in the province of Córdoba. This is in the middle of the country, like Kansas, right in the middle. And they had the luck to install that plant in a new highway that was desperately needed. You know, Córdoba is kind of, for you to understand, the second city in Argentina after Buenos Aires. And there was no highway, you know, connecting those 2 cities. So imagine the costs of that. So now we have a highway there, and we are constructing more and more highways. And energy is also a very important aspect. As you see, there are opportunities for about $90 billion US. Mining is also a sector that is very interesting, because I don't know if you're familiar, but in Latin America, South America, there are 2 big players in terms of mining. It's Chile and Peru. But Argentina has shares the border with Chile, but we have never developed our mining potential. Never, because we mainly were focused on agribusiness, you know. And so there's a huge field to develop there, mainly in gold and silver. We already have a lot of investments there from main companies. And the point that I want to focus on in terms of mining is lithium. If you're interested in that, the north of Argentina, along with the south of Bolivia and Chile, possess 70% of the world lithium reserves, and we are receiving more and more investments in that field. Not only for extracting lithium, but also for installing plants for producing batteries, right? And then, of course, we have other interesting opportunities always in agribusiness, services, and industrial goods. So, as you can see, these measures are showing good results. Argentina's growth has good projections for the next 10 years, about 3%, 4%. It's an interesting rate. It's not Chinese rates, but we prefer to grow like in an average rate than to go down cyclical growth like Argentina has been through like in the last 3 decades. So we prefer like a regular growth of these rates. And then tax burden is decreasing. This is very good for doing business. The tax burden was very high, and the government is really committed to lower that burden. Along with the tax burden, what is going down is the fiscal deficit. And last but not least, a chronic disease in Argentina's economy is inflation. We have had periods of hyperinflation in Argentina in the 80s. We resolved that by drastic measures that really were good in a short term, but bad in a long term. And as I told you before, the intention of the government is to resolve this problem in a long term. So even though it's still really high for international standards, inflation is decreasing step by step, right? So there's still a lot of things to do in the country, but as you think, these indicators show that the situation is improving, and this is why we think that today is a good time to invest in Argentina. So if you're willing to do that, please don't hesitate to contact me. I will be here and glad to answer all the questions. Thank you very much.
You want to take some questions?
Do we have any questions? If not, I've got a question, but no. Please, go ahead.
Okay, so I was just wondering, with the section 232, issue that we have going on with Trump right now, and Argentina was like issued an exemption from that, but there was really no elaboration on that. Can you
In which field, sorry? Exception on?
Steel tariff.
Yeah, great. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a very good question, Yeah.
Well, like an issue in compromise, so they didn't really elaborate on if it was like a finalized negotiation or not. So I was just curious if you had any insight on that.
Yeah. Well, look, what happened, of course, aluminum, by the way, is a very strong export for Argentina here in the US. Not steel, but aluminum is pretty important. So, to get involved, to be included in these restrictions was really bad for our exports, right? So, as far as I know, the relationship between the government of Macri and Trump administration is really good. It was with Obama, it is now. It is something that changed also dramatically with the former administration, where the relations with the US were not that good. And so I think that, to answer your question, we were one of the reasons why we were not included in these restrictions was really these good relations. And I think it's a long-term decision. I think it's not something that is done like for a temporary period of time. As long as I know, it's something that Argentina has been excluded. As far as I know, with other countries like South Korea and I have the list in mind, but I still don't remember. But as far as I know, it's a thing that is not temporary. It's going to stay there. No.
Marcelo, when we visited this afternoon, you were kind enough to take an interest in our company and what we're doing in Argentina. We talked about several ways in which you and the consulate can help our company. Obviously, this audience would be more interested, not in our company, but their company. But could you tell them a little bit about what you and the consulate can do to help them do more business with Argentina?
Well, for example, what we can do, it depends on what you want to do in Argentina, right? I mean, if you want either to invest in Argentina, we have, there's an agency that has been created by the government that deals with promoting investments and trade, right? So, if you want to invest in Argentina, if it's a new investment, right, we will be more than glad to identify the opportunities that are going on in the sector that you're interested in. That's, for example, the case of ICM. They are willing to invest in new ethanol projects, and that's what I told them. You know, I will try to identify the projects that are going on nowadays, and so that's one case. If you're willing to make a new investment there, and also, of course, more than willing to help you to have to have an agenda there with authorities. Either, you know, Argentina is a federal. This is a very important thing. It's a federal country like the U.S., so we can help you to have meetings at the national level, which is sometimes difficult, but also provincial. Argentina is divided into provinces, right? So national is for you federal, provincial level, which is for you state, and also municipal level. This is one thing that we do in the current business, like. And on the other hand, if you want to import from Argentina, that's of course one of our main jobs. We can get you in touch with exporters in Argentina. We can bring even delegations from Argentina here. We do that in a very regular basis too. And as I told you before, even if you want to export to Argentina, we're more than willing to help you in that. Try to find counterparts for that. In this case also, if you're willing to travel to Argentina, also we're more than glad to help you to have an agenda with authorities there. Authorities also with the private sector.
Other questions? Well, we'd like to thank all of you for attending. We'd like to have the executive board meetings, the executive board members come up to have a photo taken, and appreciate it all. This has been a great end to a successful year for the World Trade Council. Yeah. We're pleased to celebrate World Trade Week. We're pleased to celebrate our partnership with Argentina. We've got some tremendous plans we're working on for the fall program.